The night sky above Earth looked calm, but beyond the stars something was moving, silent, enormous, and unknown. At first, astronomers thought it was just another cluster of comets drifting past the solar system. But then the signals came. Strange, lights moving in perfect formation. No natural object ever moved like that. The world's telescopes confirmed it within hours. This was not chance. This was not nature. Something had entered the system. Something alive. Governments tried to keep it quiet, but in the age of satellites and constant news, secrets never last. Pictures began leaking online. Massive shadows shaped like triangles gliding at the edge of Neptune's orbit. 10 ships, each larger than any city built on Earth. Panic spread faster than the news itself. Were they friendly? Were they curious? Or were they something far darker? For 3 days, the alien fleet did nothing. They simply held their position, silent and still, like predators watching their prey. Earth waited. Some people prayed. Some denied it was real. Others prepared for the end of the world. But on the 4th day, every screen, every device, every channel went black. Then a single message appeared. It was not in English, or Chinese, or Russian, but in something far stranger. Yet somehow every human mind understood the meaning. It was as if the words were carved directly into thought. The voice was deep, cold, and merciless. People of Earth, you are now subjects of the Galactic Empire. Surrender your world, surrender your freedom, or face destruction. The message repeated 3 times. Then the screens went dark again. The silence that followed was worse than the message itself. In homes, in streets, in command centers, people stared at each other in disbelief. The threat was simple: obey or die. Leaders of nations gathered in secret meetings. Military commanders ran endless calculations. Could Earth fight? The answer was clear. Humanity had weapons, yes, but compared to ships the size of mountains crossing space with ease, they were nothing more than sticks and stones. Even the most advanced fighter jets, even nuclear warheads, seemed laughable. But not everyone was ready to surrender. Humanity had survived plagues, wars, and disasters, and in that stubborn refusal to kneel lay a dangerous strength. The ultimatum was set for 7 days. In 7 days, Earth must declare loyalty to the Empire, or watch its cities burn. People rioted in some places, demanding surrender for survival. Others raised flags of resistance, shouting that freedom was worth any cost. For the first time in history, all of humanity faced the same enemy. And yet humanity was divided against itself. Meanwhile, the alien fleet crept closer. By the 6th day, their massive shadows hung just beyond the orbit of Mars. Their weapons glowed faintly, like stars that promised only death. And then came the second broadcast. This time the alien faces appeared. Towering beings, their skin pale as bone, their armor black as void. Eyes without warmth, without mercy. They looked down at Earth as if it was already theirs. You are weak. You are nothing. We have crushed worlds greater than yours. You will kneel. The broadcast ended with silence again. But this time, it was Earth that answered. For across the globe, in whispered voices, in shouted protests, in secret military briefings, the same question was asked. Do we surrender, or do we fight? The countdown ticked away. 7 days to decide the fate of a planet. 7 days to either bow to the Empire, or write the first chapter in a story the galaxy would never forget. And somewhere, hidden in the chaos, a plan began to form. A plan that might give humanity its only chance. The world held its breath. The sky was no longer empty. And for the first time, Earth realized it was not alone. The world did not sleep after the ultimatum. Cities stayed awake under glowing screens. Radios never stopped repeating the words of the Galactic Empire. Every house, every street corner, every cafe was filled with the same question. What will humanity choose? Panic was everywhere. In some countries, people stormed the shops, filling carts with food and water as if hiding underground would protect them from ships the size of mountains. In others, crowds gathered outside government buildings, begging leaders to surrender before it was too late. Some wept in fear, others shouted with anger. No one could escape the weight of the voice that had spoken inside their minds. In the great halls of power, the leaders of nations sat together. For once, rivals and enemies shared the same table. The message had been clear: slavery or death. Their scientists showed the data again and again. The alien ships were real, their technology far beyond Earth's. Even nuclear fire, the strongest weapon humans had ever created, looked like sparks against a storm. The general spoke first. Their voices were sharp. They said surrender was the only choice. Resistance would be suicide. "Our armies are brave," one general said, "but bravery cannot stop stars from burning." Yet not everyone agreed. A different voice rose from the crowd, a diplomat who had spent his life in negotiations. "Surrender is not peace," he warned. "It is chains. It is the end of humanity's freedom. If we kneel now, we kneel forever." Across the oceans, the ordinary people also argued. In the markets, on the trains, in schools, every conversation returned to the same point. Some said survival was all that mattered. They would accept slavery if it meant their children would live. Others whispered about rebellion, about resisting even if it meant destruction. "Better to die free than live as cattle," one old man told the reporters. His words spread online, and millions repeated them. Religions gave their own answers. Some leaders claimed the arrival of the aliens was punishment. Others said it was a test. And in hidden temples and churches, prayers rose into the night sky, as if human voices could somehow reach beyond the stars. Meanwhile, the Empire's ships moved closer still. Astronomers tracked them hour by hour. They were no longer far at the edge of the system. They were inside the orbit of Mars. Their silent approach was like a ticking clock, a countdown that no one could stop. On the sixth day, the second broadcast arrived. This time it came not only with words but with images. The aliens showed worlds they had conquered. Deserts filled with broken cities. Oceans turned black with pollution and endless lines of slaves marching under banners of the Empire. The voice returned, cold and without pity. "Your world will serve, as all worlds serve. Refuse, and Earth will burn. Your oceans will boil. Your mountains will shatter. Your children will cry for mercy that will never come." The images ended and the world trembled. Yet in that fear, something strange began to grow. Humanity had seen its future under the Empire, and it was worse than death. Small groups of scientists and soldiers began to meet in secret. They spoke, quietly, planning things that seemed impossible. Their message spread slowly. Earth must resist not because it could win, but because surrender would mean the death of the human spirit. And across the world, sparks of courage lit up. A mother in Brazil told her children, "We will fight, even if we are small." A group of students in Japan painted banners that read, "We are not slaves." Farmers in Africa raised their tools like weapons, whispering that even the soil of Earth would rise against invaders. But still, others doubted. They asked, "What can Earth do? What is resistance but suicide?" And their voices were loud too, filling the air with fear. The final day before the deadline came, and the world stood divided. Half demanded surrender, half cried for resistance. No one knew which choice would save them. Yet one truth began to echo in hidden corners and secret meetings, whispered like a promise. Humanity had never been united before. It had fought itself for centuries, but now, for the first time in history, every man, woman, and child faced the same enemy. If Earth could unite, even for a moment, maybe, just maybe, its voice could be louder than the Empire's. The sun set on the seventh day, and the people of Earth waited. The ultimatum would expire at midnight. What would humanity choose? Kneel in chains, or rise in defiance? The world did not sleep after the ultimatum. Cities stayed awake under glowing screens. Radios never stopped repeating the words of the Galactic Empire. Every house, every street corner, every cafe was filled with the same question. What will humanity choose? Panic was everywhere. In some countries, people stormed the shops, filling carts with food and water as if hiding underground would protect them from ships the size of mountains. In others, crowds gathered outside government buildings, begging leaders to surrender before it was too late. Some wept in fear, others shouted with anger. No one could escape the weight of the voice that had spoken inside their minds. In the great halls of power, the leaders of nations sat together. For once, rivals and enemies shared the same table. The message had been clear: slavery or death. Their scientists showed the data again and again. The alien ships were real, their technology far beyond Earth's. Even nuclear fire, the strongest weapon humans had ever created, looked like sparks against a storm. The general spoke first. Their voices were sharp. They said surrender was the only choice. Resistance would be suicide. Our armies are brave, one general said, but bravery cannot stop stars from burning. Yet not everyone agreed. A different voice rose from the crowd, a diplomat who had spent his life in negotiations. Surrender is not peace, he warned. It is chains. It is the end of humanity's freedom. If we kneel now, we kneel forever. Across the oceans, the ordinary people also argued. In the markets, on the trains, in schools, every conversation returned to the same point. Some said survival was all that mattered. They would accept slavery if it meant their children would live. Others whispered about rebellion, about resisting even if it meant destruction. Better to die free than live as cattle, one old man told the reporters. His words spread online, and millions repeated them. Religions gave their own answers. Some leaders claimed the arrival of the aliens was punishment. Others said it was a test. And in hidden temples and churches, prayers rose into the night sky, as if human voices could somehow reach beyond the stars. Meanwhile, the Empire's ships moved closer still. Astronomers tracked them hour by hour. They were no longer far at the edge of the system. They were inside the orbit of Mars. Their silent approach was like a ticking clock, a countdown that no one could stop. On the sixth day, the second broadcast arrived. This time it came not only with words but with images. The aliens showed worlds they had conquered. Deserts filled with broken cities, oceans turned black with pollution, and endless lines of slaves marching under banners of the Empire. The voice returned, cold and without pity. Your world will serve, as all worlds serve. Refuse, and Earth will burn. Your oceans will boil. Your mountains will shatter. Your children will cry for mercy that will never come. The images ended and the world trembled. Yet in that fear, something strange began to grow. Humanity had seen its future under the Empire, and it was worse than death. Small groups of scientists and soldiers began to meet in secret. They spoke, quietly planning things that seemed impossible. Their message spread slowly. Earth must resist not because it could win, but because surrender would mean the death of the human spirit. And across the world, sparks of courage lit up. A mother in Brazil told her children, "We will fight, even if we are small." A group of students in Japan painted banners that read, "We are not slaves." Farmers in Africa raised their tools like weapons, whispering that even the soil of Earth would rise against invaders. But still, others doubted. They asked, "What can Earth do? What is resistance but suicide?" And their voices were loud too, filling the air with fear. The final day before the deadline came, and the world stood divided. Half demanded surrender, half cried for resistance. No one knew which choice would save them. Yet one truth began to echo in hidden corners and secret meetings, whispered like a promise. Humanity had never been united before. It had fought itself for centuries. But now, for the first time in history, every man, woman, and child faced the same enemy. If Earth could unite even for a moment, maybe, just maybe, its voice could be louder than the Empire's. The sun set on the seventh day, and the people of Earth waited. The ultimatum would expire at midnight. What would humanity choose, kneel in chains or rise in defiance? Crowds gathered to hear their story. And when the leader spoke the words, "We refuse to kneel," the people of Earth roared. For the first time, fear turned into fire. Humanity knew the Empire was powerful, but now they also knew this. The Empire had listened, the galaxy had listened, and Earth had spoken. The war was not yet fought, but the choice was made. Humanity would not surrender, humanity would resist, and in the shadows of the alien fleet, unseen by human eyes, other watchers stirred. For the galaxy had witnessed something rare, one small planet daring to say no to the Empire, and in distant corners of the stars whispers began to rise, whispers of rebellion. The refusal of Earth spread like a spark through dry grass. Humanity had spoken with defiance, and though the Empire dismissed them as foolish, that moment planted doubt, not in the humans, but in the galaxy itself. The alien fleet pulled back, into silent formation, but they did not leave. They hovered beyond the moon, a wall of black metal against the stars, yet their silence now felt different. It was not the silence of waiting, it was the silence of calculating. On Earth, leaders scrambled to prepare. Military bases worked without rest. Scientists studied every signal, every trace of alien technology, hoping to find a weakness. But alongside the rush of fear and preparation came whispers, rumors of other worlds. The delegation had returned with more than a message. They carried memories, small details overheard in the Great Chamber, fragments of conversation between alien guards, fragments of images shown on screens. The humans pieced them together like shards of broken glass, and what they discovered was chilling. The Galactic Empire was not one people, it was many, thousands of worlds, all forced under one banner. Some served willingly, most served under fear. The pale giants who had threatened Earth were not rulers by birth. They were enforcers, conquerors, the mailed fist of the Empire. Behind them was something greater and stranger, a council that ruled unseen. Even more shocking were the tales of resistance, hidden in old records, half buried in alien broadcasts, were names of worlds that had fought back. Some were said to be destroyed, their ashes scattered, but others simply disappeared, gone without a trace. The Empire called them erased, but the whispers told a different story. Perhaps they had escaped. Perhaps they had survived. Human scientists examined intercepted signals from the fleet, and in those streams of alien code, they found gaps, codes that did not match. It was as if the fleet was not one voice but many. Some commands were delayed, some messages repeated. The cracks were small, but they were there. The human leaders met again. Their voices heavy but sharp. The Empire is strong, one general said, but strength without unity can break. A scientist replied, "We may not be able to win, but perhaps we can make others believe the Empire is not invincible. If others rise, Earth may not fight alone." As the world prepared, strange encounters began to unfold, late at night. Strange signals reached Earth's satellites. They were not from the Empire. They were hidden transmissions, faint and cautious. A voice in broken tones whispered, "You are not alone." At first, many dismissed it as tricks. Perhaps even the Empire itself trying to confuse them, but the signals repeated, always short, always urgent. "They watch us too. We see you resist, do not stop." The idea spread through Earth like fire in dry fields. If there were others, other rebels, other survivors, then maybe humanity was not as alone as it thought. Meanwhile, the Empire showed its cruelty. From orbit, they broadcast images of conquered worlds, cities reduced to rubble, people shackled in chains. They wanted to terrify Earth into surrender. But instead, the effect was the opposite. The more the Empire showed its power, the more humanity saw what awaited them if they bent the knee. And, in that terror, resolve hardened. In villages, people trained with old weapons. In cities, engineers began building hidden defenses. Young men and women volunteered in droves. Some said it was foolish, some said it was brave, but all agreed, better to try and fail than to kneel without hope. The delegation's leader, the woman who had stood before the alien commander, became a symbol. She was not a queen, not a president, not even a soldier of high rank. Yet her defiance was replayed again and again. Children painted her image on walls. Crowds shouted her words in protest lines. Humanity had found a voice. But the Empire was watching. Their silence was no longer patience, it was strategy. They wanted Earth to believe it had time. They wanted the humans to feel hope before crushing them. That was their way. Break not just the body but the spirit. Still, something was different this time. The cracks in their signals grew wider, the whispers from the void grew louder, and in the shadows of the galaxy, far beyond human eyes, other worlds began to stir. One thing became clear. Earth's refusal had not gone unnoticed. It was more than a single act of defiance. It was a spark, and sparks, if left to spread, can burn empires. The aliens thought Earth was just another world, another stone to add to their crown, but they had underestimated something. Humanity's history was not one of obedience, it was one of struggle, of survival against impossible odds. And now, in the face of the greatest threat in its history, Earth's spirit was awakening. The fleets of the Empire still hovered, waiting for the order to strike, but in the silence of space new whispers echoed. Whispers of rebellion, whispers of secrets the Empire had buried, secrets that could shatter their power, and humanity knew one thing. If those secrets could be found, if the hidden truth of the Empire could be revealed, then maybe the galaxy would rise with them. Maybe the day would come when the conquerors would taste fear. The countdown was not over. The war had not begun, but the story of Earth was no longer just Earth's. It was becoming the story of the galaxy. And in the darkness between the stars, the Empire's greatest secret trembled, waiting to be uncovered. The world had seen the face of the Empire, cold and merciless. The world had seen what awaited them if they surrendered, chains and ruin. And so, slowly, painfully, humanity began to turn its fear into fire. For the first time in history, leaders who once hated each other sat at the same table. Enemies spoke not of war against one another, but of war for survival. Old flags and rivalries were folded away, replaced by a single banner: Earth. In underground bases and secret laboratories, scientists worked without sleep. They studied the alien signals, the strange energy pulses from their ships. Every pattern was written, every weakness considered. We cannot match their strength, one scientist whispered. But maybe we can outthink them. Soldiers trained in new ways, learning not to fight like armies against armies, but like hunters against giants. Guerrilla tactics, ambushes, traps. If the Empire came to Earth's soil, humanity would turn every forest, every mountain, every city street into a battlefield. Ordinary people joined too. Farmers turned their machines into weapons. Engineers shaped old satellites into hidden eyes. Children painted signs of resistance on broken walls. Across the globe, a quiet determination grew. Humanity was small, but humanity was many. The Empire watched from orbit, their silence heavy. Their commanders believed Earth was only delaying the inevitable. They let humanity prepare, for they had crushed such hope before. Yet cracks in the Empire's voice grew wider, and humanity began to learn how to listen. From the depths of intercepted transmissions, a pattern emerged. The fleets did not always agree. Different voices, different commands. It was as if the Empire itself was not one body, but many parts forced to obey. They are powerful, a young coder said, but not perfect. If we strike at the right moment, maybe even a giant can stumble. And so humanity began to plan not just for survival, but for defiance. They formed a network that spanned across nations, secret councils of scientists, generals, and thinkers. Each person added a piece, like builders raising a wall. The goal was not victory, not yet. The goal was to show the galaxy that the Empire could bleed. Then came the first chance. A lone scout ship from the fleet broke away, circling close to Earth's orbit. The Empire thought it was unseen, but Earth's hidden satellites watched. A decision was made, quick and dangerous. Strike it, the attack, was small. Only a handful of human ships armed with weapons that looked like toys compared to alien fire. But they came with surprise. They struck hard and fast, disrupting the scout systems with crude but clever hacking. A storm of missiles followed. And for the first time in history, an alien ship fell silent at human hands. The world erupted. With hope, it was only one ship, a scout, nothing compared to the vast fleet. But it was proof. The Empire was not untouchable. The galaxy watched too. For signals of the destruction spread across hidden channels. Whispers carried news faster than light. Earth had struck back. The Empire responded with fury. They sent threats. They promised fire. Yet strangely, they did not attack immediately. Perhaps they were surprised, perhaps they were afraid to show weakness by striking too soon. Humanity used that delay well. Factories turned to war production. Satellites were reprogrammed. Drones filled the skies. And deep below the oceans, submarines prepared silent ambushes. It was not enough to win, not yet, but it was enough to resist, enough to show the galaxy that Earth would not kneel. In the streets of cities, people no longer whispered of surrender. They whispered of defiance. In songs, in poems, in banners across walls, the message was the same. We are not slaves. The woman who had spoken for Earth became the heart of this movement. Her voice carried across radio waves. They call us weak, she said, but we are not weak. We are human, and we choose to fight. Her words lit fires in every corner of the planet. And still, the strange transmissions from the void returned clearer now. You are not alone, the voices said. Others watch, others wait. Show them the Empire can be resisted, and they will rise. It was only a whisper, but it was enough. Humanity's counter was not only for survival, it was a signal, a call to the stars. Earth would stand, and perhaps others would stand too. The Empire's fleet darkened. The alien fleet no longer waited in silence. Their vast ships glowed with terrible light, weapons awakening like sleeping beasts. For weeks they had hovered beyond the moon, watching Earth grow restless, watching humanity prepare. Now their patience ended. The broadcast came without warning. Every screen, every radio, every channel went black. Then the voice returned, colder than ever. Earth has chosen resistance, it said. Now Earth must pay. You have 7 days to kneel before the Empire, or your skies will burn. This time the ultimatum came with fire. The aliens unleashed a demonstration. A single beam of energy struck from orbit into the Pacific Ocean. In seconds, an entire island vanished beneath boiling waves. Millions watched in horror. The message was clear. Surrender or be erased. Fear shook the world again. Crowds filled the streets. Some shouted for peace. Others cried for war. Governments faced pressure from every side. But amidst the chaos, another voice rose. The voice of defiance. The woman who had spoken for Earth, now a symbol of resistance, stood before cameras once more, her voice steady. They think fear will break us, but fear only forges us stronger. We are not kneeling. We are not slaves. If they strike, they will find not silence but fire. Her words spread faster than the Empire's threats. For the first time, humanity answered an ultimatum with one of its own. A worldwide message was broadcast back into space, aimed directly at the fleet. This is Earth, the message declared. We will not kneel, we will not surrender. Leave our skies, or you will face a world united against you. You may destroy us, but you will never own us. The galaxy listened. Beyond the Empire's control, hidden channels carried the signal. On distant worlds and secret colonies, in the hearts of those already enslaved, hope flickered. Never before had a planet spoken to the Empire this way. Never before had anyone dared. On Earth, the final preparations began. Underground bunkers filled with supplies. Factories churned out makeshift weapons. Satellites were armed with crude but dangerous payloads. Children practiced hiding drills. Soldiers swore oaths beneath new banners. Humanity knew the price. Humanity accepted it. The Empire, however, was not idle. Their fleet grew restless. Ships shifted into attack formation. Scouts prowled the edges of orbit. Their commanders sneered at Earth's courage. They had seen such defiance before and crushed it every time. But even among the conquerors, unease spread. The humans were too bold, too loud. Unlike others who begged for mercy, these creatures shouted in defiance. Inside the halls of power, human leaders met in secrecy. Their maps filled with red circles, targets too dangerous to defend, targets they must sacrifice. They knew they could not save every city. They could not protect every life, but they could fight. And fighting was enough. In the silence of space, the strange transmissions returned, stronger now. "We hear you," and the hidden voices whispered. "We are waiting. Show them, and we will come." Humanity still did not know who these voices belonged to. Were they rebels? Were they survivors of vanished worlds? Or something older, deeper? But their promise gave strength. The final day approached. The Empire's countdown neared its end. Earth's armies stood ready. From deserts to forests, from mountains to seas, traps and defenses were set. A fragile web of resistance spun across the planet. Humanity had no illusions. They could not win by strength. But if they could endure, if they could bleed the enemy, then the galaxy would see. When the last hour arrived, the Empire's leader appeared again. His pale face filled every screen, his eyes burning with cruel amusement. "Earth," he said, "your time is over. You have chosen death, and death you shall have." But before he could end the broadcast, Earth answered. The image of the human woman filled the screens. Her voice rang out across the stars. "No," she said. "It is you who has chosen. You chose to invade. You chose to threaten. And now you will learn. Earth does not kneel." Her words echoed across the planet, across hidden channels, across the stars. And in that moment, the ultimatum shifted. It was no longer the Empire commanding Earth. It was Earth commanding the Empire. "Leave our skies," she declared, "or face resistance you will never forget." The feed cut, silence followed, and in that silence, the galaxy trembled. For never before had such words been spoken to the conquerors. The countdown ended. The Empire prepared to strike. Their weapons glowed. Their fleets descended. But in their arrogance, they did not see the spark they had lit. The galaxy was watching, and once sparks begin, they are hard to extinguish. As the first alien warships moved into Earth's orbit, the world held its breath. Humanity had given its ultimatum. Humanity had taken its stand, and the battle for survival was about to begin. The skies above Earth burned with light. The Empire's fleet descended like a storm of black wings. Their weapons glowed brighter than the sun. The ground trembled as alarms rang across every city. The long wait was over. The first battle had begun. Earth launched its defense. Crude missiles tore through the sky. Satellites ignited with bursts of energy. Fighter jets roared upward like insects daring to strike giants. To the Empire, these weapons were toys, but to humanity, they were sparks of hope. The first exchange was brutal. Alien beams cut through Earth's defenses. Entire bases vanished in white fire. Oceans boiled where energy struck the waves. Cities shook as shock waves rippled through the air. But humanity did not break. For every weapon lost, 10 more voices rose. For every city struck, survivors carried the fight. On the ground, soldiers hid in forests and mountains, waiting. They knew the Empire would land troops to occupy. When the first alien craft descended, hidden traps exploded. Tanks rolled from caves. Rockets streaked upward. The pale giants who stepped onto Earth's soil found not weak prey, but hunters waiting. In space, a desperate gamble played out. A small fleet of human ships rushed into the gaps between the enemy lines, carrying devices built in secret. EMP warheads, crude and unstable. They detonated in bursts of electric fire. Alien shields flickered. Some ships staggered. For the first time, the Empire bled. The galaxy watched. Hidden transmissions carried the images far beyond the battlefield. Slaves in distant colonies whispered with trembling joy, "Earth resists, Earth fights." Never before had such a small world struck the Empire so hard, but the Empire did not hesitate. Reinforcements surged forward. Their ships poured fire across the sky. The human fleet was torn apart piece by piece. Brave crews vanished in seconds. Their sacrifice bought only moments. But those moments mattered. For every second gained, Earth's defenses struck again. On the surface, the woman who had become Earth's voice stood with her people. Her face calm, her words carried on every broadcast. Do not fear the fire. Fight with your spirit. They may crush our bodies, but they will never crush who we are. Her voice echoed even as the sky rained fire. And in those final hours, humanity's defiance burned brighter than the weapons above. Then, as the battle reached its peak, something impossible happened. From the darkness beyond the Empire's fleet, new ships appeared. They were not Earth's. Their shapes were unfamiliar, sleek, fast, painted with strange glowing marks. They fired not at Earth, but at the Empire. The galaxy held its breath. Allies, rebels, survivors of the lost worlds. No one knew, but they came with fury, striking the Empire's flanks with weapons unlike any seen before. The conquerors staggered, their perfect formation breaking. The human soldiers on the ground looked to the sky in shock. The alien fleet was no longer one wall of death. It was fighting on two sides. Humanity was not alone. For a moment, hope roared across the planet. Maybe this battle could turn. Maybe giants could fall. Maybe the galaxy itself was rising. But then, the truth struck. The newcomers were strong, but the Empire was vast. The battle would not end quickly. Earth's skies would remain fire. Humanity's survival still hung by a thread. Still, everything had changed. Earth was no longer just a victim. Earth had become a symbol, a spark in the darkness, a world that dared to say no, a world that showed the galaxy giants could bleed. The clash raged on. Ships burned across the heavens. Soldiers fought in ruined streets. Children huddled in shelters listening to voices of defiance on radios. The outcome was uncertain, the future unknown. But humanity had already won something greater than victory. It had won the right to be remembered. And as the mysterious fleet fought beside them, questions burned brighter than the flames in the sky. Who were these allies? Why had they come now? What secrets of the Empire had they carried with them? The answers would not come tonight. Tonight was fire. Tonight was defiance. Tonight was the beginning of something larger than Earth, larger than the Empire, larger than fear itself. The war was not over. It had only begun, but the galaxy would never be the same, and as the sky burned above, humanity stood tall, whispering the same truth across every battlefield, every shelter, every broken street. Earth does not kneel.